Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You, of course, can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. And welcome to Monday's edition of the Doctor Who Daily. And today, we are going to read out together an interview with Jodie Whittaker talking about this latest series of Doctor Who. And she makes some very interesting hints and admissions. And I think it's looking very, very likely now, because this is a question we've been asking, that we will be dealing more with the Timeless Child arc. Let's give it a little read. Jodie Whittaker talks Doctor Who Flux. Jodie Whittaker, the 13th Doctor, reveals more of what we can expect in Doctor Who Flux, her final 4 series as the current Doctor. Read the full interview below. Jodie Whittaker, Mandip Gill, John Bishop and Jacob Anderson star in an epic 6-part adventure which will take the Doctor and her friends to the edge of the universe and beyond, in a battle for survival packed with action, humour, terrifying new villains and iconic returning monsters such as the Sontarans and the Weeping Angels. The new series of Doctor Who tells one story across a vast canvas. It features a host of acclaimed British acting talent, including Rochenda Sandell, Annabelle Sholey, Craig Parkinson, Kevin McNally, Sam Sproul, Robert Bathurst, Steve Oram and Fedea Graham. From Liverpool to the depths of space via the Crimean War, wow, and a planet named Atropos, which shouldn't even exist. Fighting old foes and newer creatures from beyond our dimension, the Doctor and company face a race against and through time to uncover a universe-spanning mystery. What is the Flux? It's looking like the Flux is directly connected to Chibnall's Timeless Child arc. This is now very, very interesting, and I think they're going to introduce the multiverse here. That's my little theory. So where are we? Yeah, right. How did it feel filming your last series during COVID? We started filming late because of COVID, so starting was a tentative time because none of us had a shot during the pandemic. So knowing it was my last, I knew it would be very different because we weren't able to travel. We couldn't be tactile in that way we were. But what was immediately reassuring is as soon as you got on set, no matter if the logistics or the face of the show seemed different because of the masks and all of that, all of the heart and all of the love was still there, and it was still great fun. We were able to be safe as much as we could be and as caring as we could be and not lose the atmosphere on the set. It was such a pleasure to be around people, so I was delighted. It was emotional to start with because you hadn't seen anyone and everyone has gone through so much to get to the first day, and you want to make sure you're not the person to make a mistake, as the domino effect can be so catastrophic. I can claim to that, by the way, on the set. Also, it was the longest time I hadn't seen Mandip. Did you approach anything differently coming to a serialised story? I don't think so. As an actor, you're so used to things changing, so the change between serialisation and episode arcs doesn't change your approach in any way. I could not quote what happened in what episode, as I can see the whole story in its entirety. I just know we all start on a journey where we go and how it pans out. The thing that's most different is that it's been almost 12 months of filming and it requires a different type of stamina than I've ever had to find before. Are you excited for how it will be for audiences to see the story portrayed that way? Definitely. Obviously, for Whoivans, the story was played out in many different ways over the years, and I think for us, it was great to have had that experience of both. It was definitely the right decision for us to start Series 11, my first series, in a way that was jumping off the point for anyone that hadn't watched it before. Now, I don't agree with Jodie here, by the way. I love and respect Jodie a great deal. It doesn't mean she's my favourite Doctor or anything. I'm just saying that I've got a lot of respect for the woman. She's a really talented actor, by the way. But I don't agree with her here, because that's why they did it, to give a jumping on point to new fans, like Moffat did with that pilot episode, right, called The Pilot. It didn't work, because yes, new people came in, but unfortunately the old people went, and that's not what you want as a business. You want to keep your hardcore fans and bring new people into the mix, but by bringing in new people into the mix, you lost the hardcore fan base that everybody needs. I think Chibnall should have done this serialised story from the beginning. This season, Season 11 and season 12, this is what it should have been, because this plays to Chris Chibnall's strengths. Because like every writer or any human being in the world, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. And I think you're going to see Chibnall on another level in Doctor Who Flux. I think this is going to work and people are going to love it. And this series certainly doesn't exclude people that haven't seen it, but it gives reason to go back and rediscover. It also has the, interesting, go back and rediscover, interesting. It also has those brilliant cliffhanger moments, and that, as actors for the characters, it gives lots of different layers you can bring to it. You don't want to play the end note in the first episode because you know you've got this journey to go with, a particular beat of particular emotion. Even with the serialization, it's still very episodic, and each episode has its world that is different from the rest. There may be characters who you see again, but you certainly feel like you are taking through many different worlds and times like you would in our previous seasons. That's a bit of a problem to me, because if you do a serialized chapterized story, I want to feel like, oh my god, we just left off and we've got back on the ride again. And you don't want it to end. You want it to feel like an adrenaline rush, like, you know, Kiefer Sutherland's 24 was. What you don't want is self-contained, partly a serialised story, because that's cheating, which means it's not really a serialised story. We'll have to wait and see. Were there any special moments that stood out for you filming Series 13? For us, getting to know John Bishop has been wonderful. He came in at 110% with his energy and enthusiasm. He's been so much fun to be around. He's been a massive team player for us. We were still grieving Brad Walsh and Tosin Cole, and for him to come in and not fill anybody's shoes and to be his own person, we found a new dynamic which felt brilliant, and I felt so comfortable. I think the way you meet Dan and that whole introduction, those are really fun scenes. I think all of the early scenes with him and Carvanista has been really fun to shoot. I've been lucky enough to work with new people, but I've been lucky enough to work with people I've worked with before. This is the third time I've worked with Jacob. Now that's interesting. Why is that a good thing from my point of view? Well, I like Jacob. I think he's a really good actor and a great lad. I've had some experiences with him. Of course, he has been on Game of Thrones as well, but he's very talented, a very, very talented lad. And I think we're really going to like Carvanista, if that's how you say his name. And it's great that Jodie's played with him before. It means she didn't need time to get chemistry with him. So I think they're going to have a really Captain Jack, Doctor-esque kind of, dynamic, like Tennant's Doctor had with Captain Jack, like Eccleston's Doctor had with Captain Jack. I don't think Jodie's Doctor has that chemistry with Captain Jack, but this is her character, so this is going to be interesting. I worked with Annabelle. We've played sisters before, and this was so lovely just to spend time with her. Fidea Graham, I've never worked with Fidea, and she blew me away from the read-through. Just from Zoom, I was like, that girl is phenomenal. And that's the thing. It can be your first interaction with people, or it can be an old friend stepping on set. But what you always get at the end is that it's like you've all known each other for years. Like I was in Kevin McNally's company for about 10 minutes, and I felt like I'd known him for 20 years. We've had to put certain safety precautions in place, but it hasn't in any way dampened that kind of camaraderie. Other highlights are, with so many ensemble scenes, we've had some brilliant scenes with the likes of Craig Ells, Craig Parkinson. We can feel so many people in a scene, and it can feel really epic. It's been great. Have you gotten used to being spotted everywhere by fans the free series on? I'm really lucky, as whenever I have a reaction, it's really joyous, and everyone is really warm and welcoming. The fans are the show. There's no way a show can last this many years without loyalty and a fan base, and you don't have the show without them. To have those interactions when you have them is wonderful. This is interesting, because this is the kind of thing Jodie should have been saying at the very beginning, instead of "men, don't be afraid of us women and I'm a feminist." This is what you should have said. That the fans are important, even if you didn't have experience with us first. This is warm and this is nice, and I think she's being genuine. If you said that from the off, there would have been less resistance against you. Some people were against you, Jodie, because you're a woman. And as I say, that's their point of view, and I'm not going to label them as an ist or an ism for that, but what I'm going to say is I don't understand that attitude. But I think this kind of talk would have really helped you out, Jodie. but unfortunately there were other things going on at the time. What journey does the Doctor have this series? This is important. From where we've left her, I think self-discovery is the biggest journey the Doctor goes on this series. Self-discovery. You know, coming off of the last series. I think we all know what that means. Can you tell us about any stunts you have this series? We've done a lot of wires this year, particularly for certain scenes in episodes 1. It was mine and Mandit's first few days on set. We started at energy of 100, and then after 2 days I was bruised and hurt, and realised that this is why there are stunt doubles, as I am pathetic. You do a lot of flips as if you're falling through space and have to spin yourself backwards in rotation and make sure you don't get tangled. It's all wonderful as you don't think at the time that you'll be able to do it. Also do sword fighting in this, or maybe it is best described as avoiding being got by a sword. I really loved that. Stunts wise, there is a lot of action, but rather than jumping through cranes, it feels like a lot of falling through space. There are lots of exciting monsters this series. Can you tell us about any that stand out for you? The thing that's fun about working with monsters that have been in it before but are new for me is that it makes you feel like you are getting your moment of history. Like the Sontarans, for me it's my first as the Doctor, so that was great. The prosthetics are amazing. Do you get used to working with actors that you don't recognise, that you can't recognise? You forget that the makeup up is on them after 10 minutes as you're so used to seeing them having a cup of tea and talking to people. Why should people tune into series 13? It's bigger and better than ever. It's my final full series. There'll be questions asked, there'll be answers, there'll be exclamation marks and huge exclamation marks, and I think that itself will pique your interest and pique your curiosity. Very interesting. How would you describe this series in 3 words? A self-discovery roller coaster. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Jodie says this series for the Doctor is a self-discovery roller coaster. What does this mean, everyone? It means we are continuing this controversial storyline from the Timeless Children Series 12 finale, the Timeless Children arc. Now, I might get unliked for this, voted down for this, but that actually excites me, because despite people being upset by this storyline, this breaking of the canon storyline, I want to know what the fuck is going on here. Is she the Timeless Child? Where is she from? Now maybe we'll get a hint of that. I'm not sure if Chibnall's even going to reveal this. But the question is she actually the Timeless Child? 50% think she's not, and I 50% think that Chibnall's the type to double down and not back down. It depends if the BBC have given him any notes and said, look mate, you can't go forward with this. Or maybe he was never going to go through with this. We've got a story here, hinted, that goes right at the edge of the universe. And they're travelling not just in time and space, but through space, time as well. Very, very interesting. So I think, before I was saying she's not the Timeless Child, I'm starting to think that she might be, or something else is revealed. I don't know. But I do feel whatever happens, it's important. The storyline has happened now. You can't just forget about it, which was one of my real fears at the end of season 12 when she speaks to Joe Martin's Doctor. You know, are you a different person now than you were before you found this out? And she says no, and she escapes from the Matrix. And I'm thinking, they're not going to deal with this. They're not going to give us any answers. Because it's a very clever arc. And it does pique your interest and it does get you interested. I think that was the success of series 12. I didn't like the standalone episodes. I found them kind of dull and uninteresting. But I think it's important that he does deal with this. And clearly the flux is connected to this Timeless Child mystery. So I am very excited. I want to know what he's planning here. And I think it's going to be very interesting. He can either make this story a story that people end up fucking loving or hating even more. I don't know. If you're one of those who's not going to watch Doctor Who because you're offended by this storyline, I think if you genuinely love Doctor Who and you are tempted to watch it, you should. I think you owe Chris and the show at least to watch the storyline and then judge it. Because if you're going to go off on the internet and saying it's shit, it's bad, they broke canon, well, you don't know, do you? Because you haven't seen the second part, you know, the conclusion of this storyline. Jodie herself says There are answers. Chris has given her permission to do this. So there are answers to the Timeless Child storyline. If it still breaks canon, if Hartnell is officially not the first Doctor anymore, then fair enough. But there could be another answer to this mystery. So I'm very, very intrigued by it. I think it's a great interview. I think Jodie did really well, said the right things, and I think that's been the problem. If she, you know, was saying this stuff, and Chibnall was saying this stuff from the very beginning, instead of trying to encourage older fans to leave and new fans to come in, and it seemed political to me. It seemed like they had a political agenda, and that's a shame, because we all love Doctor Who. Chris loves Doctor Who. We love Doctor Who. We should be mates. We should be on the same side. We shouldn't be pulling, you know, far apart from each other. We shouldn't be shaving against the grain when all we want is Doctor Who to be great and epic and represent the Doctor. Yes, the representation and inclusion of the Doctor is the most important thing. Nothing else. Nothing else political. The Doctor must be at her or his, or however the Doctor identifies at any time. You know, that Doctor must be the loudest, you know, brashest, biggest personality in the room. I think Jodie is really going to be more freer in this series, in the finale trilogy next year. So I just can't wait to see how it all pans out, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think without saying we're continuing the Timeless Child arc, they're continuing and maybe even concluding the Timeless Child arc. Or she talks about explanation marks. Well, maybe that means they explain some things about the Timeless Child but ask other questions. It could be that Jodie's not the Timeless Child and somebody else is revealed as the Timeless Child, and that person becomes the Doctor's mortal enemy. Maybe not even the Master. Something far more dangerous. I do believe they are going to introduce the multiverse, and something that RTD, I think, is part of here. Obviously, Chris is writing his own material. I'm not saying Russell has anything to do with that before anyone gets upset. I know it's easily done in this generation and era. But I do feel that Chris Chibnall will kind of bring in the Doctor Who multiverse. So that's very exciting, because the Doctor Who multiverse, what it can do, in let's call it Universe 1, there's 13 versions of the Doctor. But in Earth 2 and Earth 3 and Earth 4, there's other versions of the Doctor we haven't fucking met. Now, Chris Chibnall made it clear that Jo Martin's Doctor is the Doctor and she's not a multiversal Doctor. That's what he said. Of course, he could have been lying. He quickly came out and disparaged those theories. But did you notice how he hasn't said anything about the Timeless Child since the Timeless Children? And I think that points to the Doctor actually not being the Timeless Child. And so, you know, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued in the storyline. It's an interesting storyline, but I don't think you can get upset about something until you know the full picture. If someone's painted a portrait and they haven't finished it, and you're upset about that portrait, well, of course you don't like it, because you haven't seen it completed yet. The Timeless Child arc has not been concluded or explained yet. How can you hate something that you haven't seen the conclusion of? If you don't like season 11 and season 12, well, you've seen those seasons, that's fine. If you don't like the way this Doctor's portrayed, that's fine. You can't call Jodie Whittaker a bad actor, because go and watch her in everything she's done. She's been absolutely fantastic. She's a great actor. I'm happy for her that when she sees Doctor Who fans in public, they're lovely to her, right? And I implore you, if you don't like Jodie's Doctor and you see her in real life, don't say something nasty. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything. Nobody deserves that. She hasn't done anything bad. She comes from a particular point of view, and that's fair enough. But at the end of the day, nobody deserves. Just because we don't agree with people, it doesn't mean we attack them. You know, when you approach a Doctor Who actor, anyone, you are representing the rest of us. So while you're representing the rest of us, I don't want you to represent me as some abusive, pie-eating fuck. Either just walk past her and ignore her, or say something nice. Hi Jodie, love you in the Doctor. You know how nice that makes actors feel. Even if you don't love her in Doctor Who, you could say something like, I appreciate your efforts at least. That kind of thing. You don't even have to be, don't talk about the show, just say, hi Jode, I love your efforts on Doctor Who, thank you. That's it. That's all you have to do. I say it to people that maybe I don't like their versions of characters or something like that. The only time I'm negative to celebrities and people in the entertainment industry is when they purposely post troublemaking posts and they're overtly toxically political. But I don't think Jodie deserves anyone's hate. And I'm glad that she's getting good experiences, and I'm really excited for Doctor Who Flux. I think it's going to be amazing. This has been the Doctor Who Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Please smash the notification button so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you tomorrow with even more Doctor Who Daily. Until then, goodbye.